G'day and welcome to the Hunters Campfire podcast. My name's Mark and along with good mate Ian, we're here to help with all things hunting. If you're looking to start but don't know where to begin, you want to make the most of your next trip away or even plan that hunt of a lifetime, we've got something for you. You'll find our podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon and plenty of others. And if you want more, head over to our YouTube channel, The Hunters Campfire, where we have plenty of how-to and hunting videos along with the full video production of every podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good hunting. The AV captain at school.
Right, we're
Happy
on
New
now.
Year. We're on. Happy New Year.
Well, this is actually supposed to be our second one because we said the first one got launched yesterday.
It's our first recording.
Yeah,
Our first recording.
First recording. There you go. Happy New Year for our first recording of the new year. There we go.
Yeah.
That's
Going on. You're
truth
dodging,
in advertising.
dodging
Gents,
the
truth in
heat
advertising.
and the sloppy weather.
It's been miserable, hasn't it? So much rain.
Pouring down here.
Same as here.
You should see how clean my sheep are. They're white. It's the measure of how much rain we've had. They're fluffy.
I thought
How
that'd
white
be
the sheep
soggy, like a
Like a
mountain
sponge.
thing. Blech.
They might
Can
shrink.
wring them out.
Just like a big part down the middle of their back.
Middle part.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. Very good. Oh, well, that's good. That's the weather out of the way. What else is going on?
New toys. How'd you go for
New
Christmas? I did pretty well,
Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh,
which is what, you know.
that's a long time.
Strangely enough, me and Santa, we had a really good connection about what I wanted, and I got everything I wanted. It was fantastic.
Really?
Good.
Got a new, Benchmade. Yeah,
More knives.
Yeah,
course.
him and me were. That's right. Bought myself a new. Got a new from Santa. I got a new Benchmade knife. I got a new watch. It's turning up. It hasn't turned up yet.
Oh, what'd you
Ordered
get?
it. It's turning up.
Garmin?
It's actually no. I got a watch. It's a
Not a computer.
Seiko. No, not a computer. Well, actually, it's got a dive computer, but it's like like a really clunky dive computer. It's
They
a
just measure
Seiko.
depth and all that, yeah.
It's a Seiko, and it's a special edition called an Arnie, and it's a remake of a 1980s watch that Arnie wore in one of the movies.
Definitely
It's
not the tech
massive
guy of the
black
group.
thing. Nah,
Got an analog
It's an
watch.
We
Arnie
like our
watch.
smartwatch.
Yeah.
that's it.
Big fan.
Well, it's actually a duo. It's got a tiny little digital. It's got a tiny little digital display in it as well.
I remember having
It's
one of
big
those when I
analog
was at
watch.
high school.
Stepping up in the world.
Yeah, well, like that, but this is the big dive version. It's called the Arnie.
I've actually got the
God.
citizen version of that I've had for about 25 years now. So
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I don't wear it.
It's-
I wear my smartwatch now.
I'm waiting for it to turn up. So that's
Well,
it. Got the
enjoy that.
knife. Got that. Got some new Kuyu gear. Santa sent me some Kuyu gear, which was always nice of him. I
What
just need it
was...
to go cold now so I can wear it.
Oh, it's your winter gear, is it?
A couple of tops. I got some, a couple of tops, a couple of t-shirts, things like that.
Very nice.
Yeah. And that was my stash from Santa, so I was very happy.
I'm trying to think back.
You
It's
got it the
close.
same, side by side.
Oh, nah. That was before then. I've had that for a little while now. I'm loving it, by the way. They're good fun, the old Polaris. Good for fanging around the farm. But they, man, they're ridiculous, I have to say. 140 kilometre hour sort of top speed. That is nuts. Not that
Yeah.
I've got anywhere near
Really?
it.
Wow.
I run out of room before I get to half that, and I'm already freaking out. I'm not going that fast with it, but yeah, they've got a reasonable amount of grunt, the old 1000cc in it. So no, they're pretty good, and I'll be looking
it's
forward to
a
taking that
1000
on some of the 1000cc
1000cc
motor. It's bigger than my
Oh, wow.
bloody mother-in-law's
Didn't know
car.
that.
He goes,
Right,
Jono.
it's like a Suzuki Hayabusa.
Yeah,
Right.
well, kind of right. But good for
Jump
around the farm, and it's going to be
reduce
good
that
for
stuff.
just getting the deer recovery or deer taxi stickers made up. Not sure if I have stickers or number plate. Deer taxi.
Number
Figure
plate.
that out. Yeah.
But how are you going to move it when you take? So you're going to have to either take your camper van or you're going to have to take your deer taxi, one of the two.
Well, this is the thing, right? I've read about this thing called a multi-combination license. You know, truckies can drive B doubles, 2 trailers. If I get a multi-combination license, can I do that in a light car? Probably not. Can I tow a trailer behind my trailer?
I hope not. I would hope not, because that would be like, I just would not want to be near that disaster.
I've seen it in Thailand.
Camper trailer go that way, and Polaris go that way. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be there.
You see the RVs with a car behind it.
Right.
Just get an RV.
Yeah,
but the RV is one vehicle.
I've seen, or what they call it. What do they call that? They call that a toy trailer or something, isn't it? You can get those toy trailers.
Yeah,
toy hauler. That's it. Yeah.
So there is kind of half a plan. I'm just trying to figure out. I think I'll back the camper up to the loading ramps on the farm and see if I can just drive the Polaris onto the top of the camper. I'm sure that'll make it handle beautifully.
I'm not sure of the
load.
I'm not sure of the camper van load rating on the actual, not on the axle, but actually on the body of the
suspension in the camper. Come on, guys, help me out.
Axle, I mean the top of the camper.
Well, there's no axle.
The metal that it's made out of.
Goes on top.
No, there's no boat rack. I got rid of it.
Yeah, well, I don't think you're going to.
What is the weight?
I don't think you're going to overload the axles. I think you're going to overload the body.
About 800
the body's
kilos.
going to be overloaded. The metal give out.
I bought a welder. Make some reinforcing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yes, to your point, it's likely that Jono will have to come by my place, pick up the trailer with the Polaris. I'll tow my camper, so I've got a comfortable night's sleep, and Jono can sleep in a swag.
Okay, so that's going to work.
Does that sound fair? Well, Mark doesn't have a camper. Oh, you do have a camper.
You need like a. No, I don't have a camper.
No,
well, then you can tow the Polaris.
Graham's. I got a mate. I got a mate with a camper.
Yeah, 2 campers and a Polaris. There we go. 3 cars, 2 campers and a Polaris.
And Graham's always keen for a trip, so he'd come along. He's got a little camper. It's more of one of those off-road. You know, it's the self-contained unit, and it's got a pop-up tent on the roof for sleeping, and it's got the, what do they call them? You know, the bat wing or whatever it is, a 270-degree wing around it,
like our Patriot,
which you can zip in. So you can. It's kind of like those Patriot things, but it's not. It's a Stony Creek or something like that. But it's fantastic for a base camp. We used it at Nundle last year. And it was, in fact, Darcy and Tim ended up sleeping in it rather than their own. Well, Darcy went down and was intended to sleep in it because Darcy went down with Graham. But Tim had a tent and he ended up just sleeping under it. So moving his gear underneath it and sleeping under there. So it was it's fantastic. And it's got a nice little kitchen rollout. It's got a water pump. It's got a 70 or 80 litre fridge freezer in it. So yeah, it's a really good hunting base camp.
Yeah, they are.
And he loves using it.
They do make things more comfortable.
Nice.
There's no doubt.
They're good.
It is a real problem though.
It was fantastic.
Versus camper thing. My wife's got a liveaboard, a horse float.
Well,
so she can at the front of the horse float, you've got a queen bed and a bunk and a kitchen that takes up 2/3, and the back third takes 3 horses. So it's a reasonable sized piece of stuff, but it's wide enough for the Polaris to drive in. But
that actually makes more sense, doesn't it? That makes more sense.
Long enough.
That makes more sense.
Can't quite get it in. You can't get the back tailgate up, so it just doesn't quite fit. That would have been bloody primo. Just cruise having with a horse float.
Might need a new horse float.
That's what you need. That's right. It's almost like you need a horse float, doesn't it? No.
Toy hauler with a pop-up tent, rooftop tent on the front. Anyway,
well, when we went out west to Thargomindah and in Quilpie, there was at Miles. There was a one of those N70s, the Isuzu 4-door 4-wheel drive trucks that they use
like the dailies
for the Rural Fire Brigade in Yosemite.
Yeah,
as Isuzu make one. I think it's the N70. There's a model, and there's a 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, single cab, dual cab. You see them everywhere. They had a dual cab, 4-wheel drive. So I went, I want that. And then they had this almost like a mini version of a tilt trailer for carrying cars. You know, like a tilt trailer, like you drive one in and there's a ramp.
Mm.
So they had a quad in the tray, and then on this angle they had the boat.
Yeah, I've seen them. You see them up in Fraser.
Yeah, they had the
Big
boat,
SUVs.
and that's it. So, you know, and that thing just lowered down to the boat. So it was like an extender. It went down to the ground, you rolled the boat off, and then you moved it, and you obviously picked up the Polaris, and you moved the Polaris off. You towed the boat towed the Polaris along the beach or wherever it was, and they had this big truck as the base camp. It's a pretty spectacular setup.
Life goals.
And my
Pretty
boys
awesome
want me to
trucks,
get one. My boys want me to get one because they want me to drop them off at school in it.
Oh, well, fair enough. It'd be the cool
In the
dad.
truck. That's it. Seems right. And you know what? I believe they're cheaper than Land Cruisers.
The Iveco dailies.
surprised me.
I had a half think about the daily when I was looking at buying a Patrol or a Land Cruiser. The specs were pretty good. Like they function really well off road. I saw a couple of videos about the daily versus the Land Cruiser, and it shit all over it. Like, so really capable off road, but just so big. Like, it's not going to fit in my shed. It's not going to fit in my work car park. It's just so
Doesn't
impractical.
fit in a car park.
You know, you can park it on a couple of cars, but you know, you can't. It's not going to fit in a car park. Hopeless. So yeah, that went out the practical window as soon as my wife saw me looking at it. It was that. But anyway, it's enough about cars. I'll figure it out. Rooftop 10 on the Patrol gives me the sleeping, and I can play that. Maybe that'll work.
That's not a bad option. That'll work. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, and the other thing is too, if it's state forest, then you can't take the Polaris anyway. So
no, and most of the
no,
private blocks we stay in, sheriff's quarters or something like that. So
yeah, so it should work out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we could take it to the territory. Now, that'd be an interesting thing.
I think we want the camper for the territory. That's part of the reason why we're driving.
I don't want to much sacrifice the camper for Polaris in the territory.
Oh, there's a debate to come on that.
You
could figure it out.
You could just drop. You could zip along the road and just drop people up on the track and just say, "You sit here, and 5K's up, pick up someone, and
can't you just do
sit
that
there
in the
with
car?
your water bottle and with your big hat." And
You can though. With those billabongs and that, you're not going to get around as well, very well in a Polaris, in my view. There's just some of those really steep billabongs.
You would, but you would scare the crap out of everything.
I prefer to have a good base camp out there.
Same.
Polaris.
Fridges, freezers, water, shower, shitter, queen bed, electric blanket.
Correct.
like a refrigerated blanket,
Electric blanket in the territory.
some kind of refrigerating system.
Oh dear. All right, let's
Take an
move on.
ass bath.
This is getting ridiculous.
Hey,
I
I don't know if you saw this, but well, before we do, there's a Facebook page, Queensland State Forest User Alliance. I think I don't know who's involved in it, but it pops up in my feed, so I must know someone who's involved in it.
It must be Reese.
That
And an
not
interesting
Reese?
thing might be Reese.
Yeah, I think there was a concept
be
some
Reese.
time ago to make it not just the State Forest hunting, but the User Alliance brought together all the fossickers and the campers and the four drivers and
It might be
everyone
Reese.
to swell the numbers.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what my thoughts were.
So
Yeah.
anyway, they've got this thing that supposedly there's a system called All Trails. I don't know what it is. Must be an app or something like that. And it is an app. The All Trails study reveals that Aussies lack hiking and outdoor skills, and it's talking about people don't know how to read maps and use compasses and things like that. And I thought it was quite interesting, actually, because map and compass is certainly a dying art. But I don't know what they talk about survival skills as well. You know what you do if you get lost and things like that. It's actually quite interesting. It's actually derived from a recent story in The Guardian, so maybe it's not even true.
Yeah,
But,
well, I mean, it's certainly
I
easy enough
thought
to
that was
do
quite
because the
interesting.
old analog compass gives you a true reading all the time, and we're relying on digital devices, watches, and phones. Now when I was out with Dave and at the trip out to Nundle during summer, we went out to a spot and I forgot to pin where the car was, and we weren't that far away from it. but I just went in the general direction I thought it was, and I was reasonably well off the track where I needed to be. I ended up going in the wrong direction, and all of a sudden you're turning around and trying to figure out what's going on. And I wasn't concerned that we were ever going to get lost, but we're certainly not facing the right way. And I was looking at the orientation of the map, and it was out. So it's getting interference from something, and I look at my device and I look at someone else's device, and they're pointing us in different directions, trying to go to the same place. So
well,
the old analog map and compass has a place.
So we had that in Severn. Don't know if you recall,
right.
Mark. So we were on the southern side of the road, and we had come down and we're coming back to hit camp just on dark, and you could see where the sun was setting. And following a GPS, I had the GPS going on my watch, and I had a Venza on my phone, and it was taking us in completely the wrong direction to get to where we had parked the car. It's quite hard to get lost in Severn, especially when you've got a setting sun to follow. And the app and my watch were taking us in completely the wrong direction because of all the there's all the rock and all that's around there. It's causing interference and throwing us way off. Yeah.
And Darcy was having the same problem too, wasn't he?
Correct. Yeah. So Darcy had his phone. He had the same issue. We ended up having to pull out an analog, a basic compass to get the correct bearing. Not that we needed it, but we were trying to test it. We had a watch and we had the compass next to each other, and they were completely different directions. It was crazy. Yeah. So you can't always trust your device.
Well, it got me thinking about that, because how do you use your device when you're out? I mean, I primarily use it to tell me where I shouldn't be. I don't tend to use it for navigation purposes.
I do, but not
for navigation. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't use it for point and shoot navigation, but I'll be looking at the map. You've got your grid lines that orientate to north because it's the way the map orientates itself. They're always north-south, up and down on the map. And I use it for, okay, well, I'm here. I can see exactly where I am, and I know I can see that off to my left. I've got pretty nasty gully that I don't really want to go through if I'm trying to. I'd shot a deer and I was sitting there going, what's the easiest way to get out of here? I can see the shortest way, and I can see the easiest way, and I can see where my nearest track might be, and those sorts of things. So I use it for detail that I wouldn't know about, because I'm in a lot of the time when you're in state forest, you might be exploring new areas, so you don't know what features are around. So I certainly use it for that. From time to time, I'll flick on the track GPS trails, and I'll have it follow me around. I do that if I stumble across a track that's not marked. As soon as I stumble across that track, if I'm going to follow it, like I did on the last trip that I was in Nundle, I found this track and I went, shit, it's going the right way. It's what I want. I hit the mark button then, and I had it. So I hit the track GPS and I had it follow me all the way along the track, so I could see later on where that was on the map and where it might likely go if I don't reach the end of it, stuff like that. But not for basic nav that you're talking about, Mark. I don't use it for that.
I think that's always the difference between hiking and hunting. Generally when you're hiking, you are going from A point to A point. And so, and you're navigating along that way. If you have to navigate, if it might be a track or a trail, then you're just following that. But when you're hiking, you are navigating generally, because you're actually trying to go from, the car park to the peak or whatever it is, or the waterfalls or the lake. But, generally with hunting, navigating is secondary almost to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm exploring. I'm actually exploring. So as long as I kind of generally know what's in front of me or around me, that's all I need to know. Getting back's obviously important, but I've always found with the state forest, they are pretty, there is tracks in most directions, unless, there is those parts in Nundle when you get right up in the guts there, you do run out of tracks, but in most instances, if you were to walk on a straight line, you would eventually cross a track.
Yeah, no doubt.
A working forest. The same with the Pilliga. If the Pilliga is gridded up, especially Pilliga East. But yeah, so it got me thinking about your actual skill set when you're out there and how you're using that skill set, because I always still carry a compass with me. But I've done that, and if I don't know when the last time I looked at it, but I've just always had one with me because it's just something I learnt so many years ago.
Yeah.
Well, what I do is on my Garmin watch, I set it when I always do a starting point, and I use the hark function, just because it's preset. But that actually tracks me, and I use that because when I get home, I can jump onto the Garmin website and actually overlays it onto Google Maps, and I can actually see where I went and how I did it, and all the rest of it. And then from that, I can actually use that for further scouting. Oh, I saw deer along this gully. Is there another way I can get into that gully, etc.? So I like to do that. Plus, it gives me the option to return home if I need to. We use that in the territory. When Ian shot that buffalo, he turned to me and said, "Did you remember your head torch?" I was like, "Oh crap, no." And we had like 20 minutes of light left, and we had about 4 Ks to get to the car. And literally on my watch, we just went, do a beeline straight back to the car, straight, don't follow the track, just a straight line. Yeah, and we just followed the watch, and we just steamed ahead with this buffalo, and we got back to the car just on dark because we didn't have any torches with us. So there's definitely a place for them. I love the GPS function on my watch. I think it's great.
Do you carry paper maps?
No, not anymore. I used to. I used to carry a compass and the paper maps, and then I like the last couple of years, I've really started trying to strip out all of the shit that I used to carry, bloody jet boil and coffee and this and that, and sit down and have a gourmet meal. Like it's just not necessary. So I started turfing stuff out of the pack, and the compass and the paper map were one of those items that I had to seriously look at it and say, when was the last time I used it? Like, and am I really going to be in a situation where I need it? Maybe if I was doing high country stuff in Victoria, or if I was doing stuff over in New Zealand, I'd want to have that backup. Or if you're doing multi-day away and battery consumption was going to be a problem,
multi-day
might become a factor. But like all of the stuff that we do realistically is half day trips, and left and right of you there's a track if you walk. Mine exactly the same as what you're saying. I follow my nose for the morning, for the hunt part, if you like. I follow my nose, down in the gullies, up the other side. I go wherever the dog takes me, really. Yeah. And it's now I've shot an animal. How am I going to get out of here without busting my arm?
The most convenient way? That's it.
Yeah.
I've actually started carrying a map again now because I'm taking so many newbies with me, and my boy too. So I'm actually, using it as a discussion piece again. But we usually print like a little A4 or something like that, or an A3. I usually print them up, and we'll just go like, last time I was, that in Nundle, that the peak up the northern end where near the it's the hill that the Wi-Fi trees below. You can actually go up to the top of it. Yeah, we went up to the top of it. Well, when we were down in the eastern side of that, across the road in that area, we were just practicing navigation in there and just saying like, look at this tree, look at this thing, think about where you are, and taking, having a look around and taking a snapshot of where you are and what it looks like and continuing on. So I've actually found that I'm using the paper map again, but I'm using it really to say, look, this is where we are and this is where I'm thinking we're going and things like that. Because last time I had both my son and Graham with me, so really I was just tour guiding.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make a way back.
Yeah, I stopped carrying the paper maps.
Now.
Yeah.
When DPI dropped the requirement, that's when I stopped. I just used my device.
I did too. I got rid of it, but I'm starting using it again. I mean, I never did carry things like coffee and all that stuff like that. I never did bother with those either. One of the things that was quite interesting about it is that on this website, people have made comment about what they take with them and stuff like that. And when you look at a lot of the stuff they're taking, a phone and a Zolio would be basically draw a line through 4 or 5 of the things that they're carrying with them, like EPIRBs and GPSs and things like that. It was quite interesting, like what people are saying they take with them, like warm item of clothing and stuff like that.
I usually carry a rain jacket or a poncho or something with me, just so I don't get caught.
That's it. I usually that's one and the same. But I mean, Nundle, I'm warm anyway, so I'm wearing it. But different places, different approaches. It was quite interesting to see that skill set and the focus on that skill set.
Definitely dying out.
Yeah, so I carry
I think Scouts is probably a few places that train it.
Yeah, I carry a good quality survival blanket. It's only about the size of 2 fists for those that are listening, not looking. And it's got that blaze or that rescue red outer, same color as your fancy bottle, Jono. And the foil line inside, and it's a multi-use thing. You can fold it back up and use it again. I carry that rather than another warm piece of clothing. Like you say, you walk out of camp, you probably got your puffer jacket on and a jacket over the top, and you strip that stuff off.
I got every piece of warm clothing I own there anyway.
Yeah, it gets damn cold. So, but I take that. But again, we're not these survival guys that you're talking about. They're probably talking about multi-day. You got to be prepared enough to get yourself in trouble and survive for the day and maybe overnight. But then again, not to say that you want to rely on the technology, but with the Zoleo, being able to just message you my exact location and say, hey, I'm in the shit. The fact that you're going to get that and I know you're in the camp, how long am I going to have to wait? You might sit there, finish your cup of coffee and say, I'll stuff him with you right for a while, but you'll come and get me eventually.
Depends how warm that blanket's fired up. What the hell?
But I mean, with the location share as well, we can see each other within 6 minutes. So 6 minute intervals. So I mean, between us, that is. But
I don't know about John and his blanket might get some prodding to get him out of bed. But yeah, I'd probably come. I'd actually go if my son was there. Let's go. We're gonna go get here. Let's go and rev it up and make it an adventure. So
stuck again. Fun. Yeah, that's right. But I mean, again, relying on that's probably not the best advice for people, but it's certainly added a layer of comfort. There's no doubt that I feel way safer.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Have you ever been lost?
Yeah, I have. Where was I? I was sambar hunting in Victoria in an area that I didn't know, and this is the exact reason why relying on technology is the wrong answer. I was out for a very good solid, pre-dawn to after dark, and all my stuff was going flat. I was literally taking the batteries out of my GPS so that it wouldn't accidentally soak up more power than necessary, so that I could turn it on every half an hour and double check that I was going the right way. I ended up being like 4 water catchments too far across from where camp was going, and I was quite disorientated. Even though downhill was downhill, I was second guessing what I was doing. But it was quite a strenuous exercise it was so steep, going around these water catchments and over these spurs took quite a lot of effort, and I just got to a point where I wasn't too stressed out, but I was very tired, and I was starting to get out of water, and everything with the phone was gone flat and the GPS went flat. I mean, I had 3 different items. I had the phone, I had my my watch, and I had my GPS, and everything was starting to just run out of batteries, and I was like, underprepared. The radio batteries were gone, and my replacement batteries I didn't have for my GPS at the time when there was AA replaceables. It just didn't work. So, but other than that, not seriously lost. There was one other time. I knew exactly where I was, but I was completely dehydrated, so my brain wasn't thinking properly, and I actually just sat down for a while, and I messaged Hendo. Actually, I messaged Hendo and I said, "This is my GPS coordinates. Can you jump on a map for me and tell me what bearing I need to walk to get to a road, to a track? Just tell me I'm going the right way." And there was no reason for me to need to do that other than I was not thinking rationally because of dehydration. Because I had a sheer cliff on one side, and I knew which direction I needed to go, but your body functions in a weird way when it's not operating properly. So, yeah, they're the two things that come to mind for me.
I was a younger guy in mid-teens we're on a hike. There's a group of us. We're on a hike, and we're actually up near your way, up there in up on the border range, and we were crossing private land. It had been organised before. We were crossing private land. We were doing a point-to-point hike, and we were following this fence line, and there was a bull on the other side of this fence line. So we were keeping the bull and the wire between us and the bull, you know. And all of a sudden, there was no wire.
Oh.
And we went, oh. So we for a while we thought if we just keep walking like there's a fence, then we'll be okay. And so we did, but it didn't. The bull started to like move towards us, and we went, oh, okay. So we said, we'll cut down into this tree line and just follow the tree line, and then come back up. And somehow, when we went into the tree line and we went into the creek and we got below the eye line of the paddock we were in, something happened. And don't know what happened, but we became disorientated, and we kept going because we're young fellas and we're not real bright, and we just kept going for 3 or 4 hours, and so we just speared completely off course. And then all of a sudden, we kind of started to realise we were going the wrong way. And you talk about, a compass will give you a true reading. When there's 8 kids looking at each other, you don't get true readings with compasses. They all point to each other.
Yeah.
When you're all standing around in a circle on the same map doing this, it's like this wagon.
We're all going that way.
That's right. It's this wagon.
This weird thing of confusion that happens under strip.
Yeah, it was, and it became, and like we used to hike pretty light when we were that age, and so there was no fat in anything we were carrying. So that first night we actually camped in the creek bed on rocks. It was just literally we just became too exhausted and kind of too scared, and we just stayed there. And then for the next whole day, we just walked this creek line. And we had this horrible conversation: was the creek going to spear us to the west of the Great Divide or over to the east? So were we going to end up on the coast, or were we going to end up further in the scrub? And we just didn't know where we were going, and we're all having these pictures that we're all just going to die out here in the middle of somewhere. And we'd been going for most of the day, and all of a sudden we found we saw a track, vehicle track. Probably vehicle track, and then we got to it and we went, okay, which way did we go? And we sat down on the vehicle track in the end, kind of out of sheer exhaustion and fear, going, we don't know which way to go. And then we heard a dog bark, so we went towards the dog, and then we ended up at this farmhouse, and there's like 8 kids, Lord of the Flies parade. Mud bone through our noses. We'd already gone wild. Help us. And they said, they had a landline, just sometime. And they rang the guy, our scout leader, and he turned up and chastised us for doing the wrong thing. And we piled in the bus and we went home. And it was like, stupid boys, don't get lost again. And it was really quite an interesting experience. I still remember it because it started to break down really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the major things that you find when people is that you got to shut your brain off, because it's telling you, oh, you're going the wrong way, you're going to die, you're going to, there'll be dogs chewing on your bones in 10 minutes. It all goes from completely safe to your extinction within, a couple of seconds of thought. So you've got to shut that off. If you think you're going the right way, you probably are. And shut it off. But yeah, that was what I found from that. That was I still remember that one. I remember some of the guys, losing it on that first night. They're starting to lose it.
Oh, we're gonna die.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's a really.
The second one.
Can I go, Mark? Another one. I've been lost twice.
The second one I wasn't lost, but I was disorientated because, like yourself. But what it was is we were hunting on a property back of Stanthorpe, and again, way out in the back of Stanthorpe, and the property owner set a fire of a deadfall, and he set a fire when we were out, and we came back towards the fire, and because it was darkish and there was this massive bright light and it was a flame, we just could not figure out where anything was. It just completely disorientated us. and we what's this? Because we couldn't see anything that, we couldn't see the house lights or anything like that. All we could see was this bright orange light. And I mean, it's a big timber deadfall flame. So, it was a big fire. And we thought, is that a fire? Is it coming towards us? And all that stuff. And that really disorientated us for a while. We kind of moved. We decided to move into the wind because we thought, it's a fire. It'd probably go, the wind will push it rather than draw it. So we went into the wind and we realised what it was. It was just this controlled fire that this guy was burning. But it was, when we saw it at the time, we just could not figure out where we were or what was happening all of a sudden because it just disorientated us so much.
Mm. So the only thing that you can truly rely on, I mean, compass is great, but if you don't have one, if you've got your Avenza map, if you've got your map, again, remember that the grid squares are north, south, east, west. They're kilometre gaps apart, and you can rely on the sun's rising and falling and the moon's rising and falling being the same thing. So you should be able to find yourself an east-west direction and a north-south direction from that without needing a compass. That'll give you a general direction to go for a general track line that's on your map. That should get you right most of the time in these places that we're hunting. I just find the whole thing fascinating, how the body doesn't work well under stress, and we don't put ourselves in that sort of stress very often. So when it happens, it's usually the first time you're in the shit. Yeah, you figure out how you're going to respond to that, and it can be quite interesting.
And in that instance, when you're crossing over and you're not crossing under the direction of a device, one of the things that we learnt years ago was actually just pick something like 50 yards in front of you. So you go, okay, I'm heading that way, or head to that gum tree. And so that's how you basically try and stay on the same bearing, rather than, because for whatever reason, we all tend to either hook to the left or hook to the right. And that's why they find people going around in circles, because you think you're walking, but you slowly pan one way or the other. So spot something at not too far distance and walk towards it, and then spot the next thing, and then spot the next thing. And that's how you can help keep yourself within a reasonable single bearing.
Good idea. Jono? Not found yourself lost?
I've not yet. I'm sure it's going to happen, but not yet.
Oh, man, we've got to get him there. We'll get him there.
Touch wood.
We'll find a way. All right. Good way to chat about gear. We were talking about clothing and gear and stuff offline, and some of the things that we're trying to pick for various different conditions. Unless you want to, is there anything else you wanted to cover off on that before we move, Mark?
If I could buy KUIU shares, I'd probably buy them because I think I'm holding them up at the moment.
No, I think your brother in arm, Dave Willie, he's out KUIUing you. Is that a thing? He's out KUIUing you.
Yeah, well, him and I talk about, because I go, Wayne, what about those attack pants? What do you find there?
Check out my KUIU undies. Check out my KUIU socks.
We're comparing notes. I've actually now got KUIU gear that I use for fishing. That's how much I got.
Wow.
Man.
He's a fanboy.
I bought a blue one. I thought, I'm going to use that for fishing. That's it.
KUIU.
Nothing wrong with the gear.
Yeah, product. So, no, I love
Very
it.
Very good.
Fits
Very
me.
good product.
Fantastic gear. It's fantastic gear.
All right, so let's talk about that.
So
I'm going through.
What other gear?
I'm going through the normal, the process of upgrade. Not so much upgrading, but refreshing a few of the bits and pieces that I need for the coming season. I've been always chasing the right pair of pants, and I've been on every site, every brand. I'm just trying to find the right product to suit our conditions. And we talk about there's lots of different brands out there, and a video that you guys put out way back about Jono wearing a pair of pants that attracted every seed known to man, and then you were wearing a different type of pant and it was made of a different material, and the seeds just brushed off it. So I don't think there's a
Yeah.
one size
Yep.
or a one product fitting everything here. But
Have a listen to this.
oh, yeah.
So this was last night. Hey Mark, I remember watching a video of yours where you recommended pants that are burr-proof. I got so much burr on my hunting pants that I don't think I can say them without ripping them. That came through last night from Haroon.
I did it from a
So
Just put,
that's it. From tonight. He said it to me yesterday. So yes. I said Pentagon Ranger 2.0s. But that's it, yeah. So that is a real issue this time of year, that burr grass.
Yeah,
there was literally end of January, beginning of February when we were in Severn, Mark, when that happened.
Yeah, it is. It's this time of year. Usually
and there's some
you get
parts
a good bit
way
of
worse
rain.
than others, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah, haven't
So that- I
haven't
mean,
had
that's-
anywhere
so,
near the
you know,
same
it's
problem
kind
in Nundle and Hanging Rock as we have in Severn. But then you're in summer. We're talking about winter. Do either of you guys have you matched one brand or pair of pants that supports what you do for the entire year, or are you mix and matching across the season?
For me, I'm at the moment sticking to the same pair of pants. So I got Hunter's Element. I think I've got the Spurs, which are sort of they are geared a bit more towards warmer weather, but you can just wear thermals underneath them. The only thing I find they're not great for is the wet. So I'm actually looking for this year. I'm going to get a nice pair of waterproof or water resistant pants just to help me with Nundle or Maybole and that, because it was so wet down.
Yeah.
We're so wet down there last year that the spare pants just don't really hold up in that. They're great for hot weather. I've used them in the territory. I use them in the raw. I've worn them at Nundle. I just put a pair of thermals underneath them, and they work fine. And the good part about that is if you do get too hot, you can just take the thermals off.
Yeah.
They're generally all round for me.
Dare I ask Mark what brand he's wearing?
Yeah. Last year I wore the Pentagons to Nundle. I wore them, and I just wore thermals underneath, and they were pretty much good enough.
What are they made of?
They're that ripstop stuff,
Are they a cotton blend, or are they
but you can see
all synthetic?
Yeah, no, they're not a pure cotton, mate. Just amuse yourself, and I'll look them up. Tell you. So they've got that you can see the crosshatch pattern.
Ripstop. Yep.
That's the stuff. Ripstop. Pentagon. So I used them last year at Nundle with a pair of spur pants on a couple of days. But this year I'll be taking Kuyu. And so they're warm enough with thermals underneath. Yep. So what are they? Come on, where are they? Specifications.
So I've been looking for pants that have no cotton in them, because obviously they hold the wet and they hold the cold, even if they are a blend. Hunting, good quality hunting clothing is usually quite technical nowadays, and it's removed a lot of that cotton out of it, and it's got polyester, spandex, something else blend in it to allow it to move and stretch and do what we want to do. But the problem with half these brands that are coming in, Kuyu's one of them, and Sitka's another one, and First Light's another one. Like a lot of the American brands that are top notch, like really good quality gear, it's difficult to try it on, right? And if you're going to change what brand you're wearing, you've got to go through that process of, I think I'm this size, so I'm going to get that one in, and if it's wrong by half a size, you want to send it back. You're sending it back to the US, it costs a lot of money. That whole process is really hard. Time
consuming.
And here was the fun part for me, right? So I was looking at Sitka. I thought Sitka gear really ticked the box for what I wanted. Had good sizing. It had it had the right range of stuff. I don't really care about the pattern, to be honest, because I'd probably go a solid color over a pattern, but whatever, that didn't bother me. But I didn't want to buy it from the US, so I looked up Sitka Gear Australia to find out who distributed it, and lo and behold, there was sitkagear-australia.com as a website, and it mirrored the US website, and it had Australian dollars and Australian price, and it looked perfect. So I sent them a message and just said, hey, I'm going to buy the first stuff. I just want to know if I've got a return for sizing, whether it goes back to the US or whether you've got an Australian warehouse. That link went back to the US site, and they came back to me and said, we don't have Australian distributors. Oh, well, can you take a look at this website for me? And it was a fake website. The whole website was fake.
Oh,
was it fake, or was it one of the one? Was it fake, or was it something?
It was a fraudulent site.
They kind of it generates for.
No, it was a fraudulent site.
Okay.
Yeah, so they got back to me and they said, thanks for letting us know. And the next thing you know, that whole site's shut down. Can't get to it anymore. It's gone. So not quite sure what all of that was, but the pricing was great. The Australian dollar pricing was awesome. But I wouldn't have seen shit.
I think Kuyu have something here in Australia, in South Australia, and the reason I say that is because when you order stuff from them, they kind of say, it's part of this worldwide ordering, which I'm assuming that they, it doesn't all come out of the States. It comes out of some place. And when I've only ever had to return one thing to them, and it went back to South Australia.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know if that's like, I don't know if it's a distributor or more like a logistics type of setup for them. So they might have them in different countries logistically, so it moves around. Because what happened was, the jacket that I ordered had those zips under the arms, and they just drive me crazy.
Yeah, so I couldn't imagine having them.
Sent it back, and they said sure, and I bought another jacket, and another jacket came. But one of the things that I like so much about them is the quality of their gear and how good it is. But two, what I really, really like about them is their standard sizing. It's correct, and it doesn't have great variances in it. And they'll even say, like, if these pants, if you order these pants, they're slightly different to these pants. So they'll tell you that. So they said, so like after I was talking to Dave Willie about the attack pants, I contacted them and they said that they're the same size. Go the same size. You'll just find that they're a little tighter than the sizing for the stretch ones. But they said, they're a little tighter, but it's not significantly different, because they're not stretch. So, because I said the ones I got are a bit big on me, but I don't mind because they're summer pants. So I don't mind them being a bit big. And they said, so they're going to be a little bit more, a bit snugger, but it won't matter in any great sense. But they know their stuff, and that's what I like about them. You can send them a message and you'll get a response, and it's usually pretty accurate.
Yeah, whereas your Hunter's Element, which I quite like, and I like supporting some of the local companies and local, Southern Hemisphere local, I guess, as local as that gets. But, you can get, if you buy, what we were talking about earlier, pants that I use for summer with the Eclipse pants, they're air mesh, they're really good. But if you want to buy the spur pants, you've got to buy a size smaller, because the Eclipse are big. If you want to go and buy their bloody shorts, you've got to buy 3 times bigger, because, I couldn't give it to my son, and they probably wouldn't fit like the normal sizing. It's ridiculous that their sizing is just, and they claim, material fits different. I said, that's rubbish. It's a pattern. It might stretch more if it's got a different material, but they just can't get their sizes right. I tried a shirt on the other day. The current shirts that I wear, they're a bigger fitting shirt because they go over the top of a lot of stuff. It's the camo outer that I wear from time to time, and it's an XL shirt. I went and tried on their new shirt, their new Eclipse shirt, which is basically the same thing, the new model. I don't fit into a 5XL. Right, so 1XL to 5XL. That's the variance that they have in their shirt size. It's nuts. But
which not good for your confidence.
Yeah, it's right. I'll just get this. Okay.
Not for anything. I would die tonight. I wouldn't want to jump 4 sizes, and you wouldn't want to.
I don't even give a shit what the size says. I just want one that fits. But yeah, I mean that sort of size is just crazy, and they need to sort it out. But
say that I've often found that NZ clothing's got a different. I remember when I used to wear ruggers, I used to wear small, and I'm not small. Okay, there's no doubt about I'm not small. That was it. They'd say I thought like, everything was small from them. It's just like.
They build them bigger.
This T-shirt that I was swimming in. That's right. That's it. They must have just went, okay. Where's our sizing model? That's right.
Yeah.
Some prop was there. Some local prop was their sizing model. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're pretty fit. You're small. Yeah. Oh, you should see my brother.
He's probably the smallest player in the rugby team.
That's it.
He's bugging.
Yeah. But it's a hassle.
Yeah, I remember.
So I'll be sticking to what I know for now. I have been trying to find a few different things, better quality, more consistency in size. We do so much buying online now compared to going into retailers. Retailers really aren't stocking a whole bunch of stuff. Even those that are supposed to stock a lot, they burn through their stock so fast because of online retailing. I was talking to the guys down at Apex the other day, and their retail trade is through the roof. So when you go in store now to try something on, so much of it's gone out to online sales, which is great for them. It's just, the whole market's changing. Yeah.
Well, I used to do nearly all my camo shopping on the annual Nundle trip when they used to still be at Urella. Camo Warehouse, when they still was at Urella, we would literally stop there and I would buy a heap of stuff. I got 2 jackets from there, boots, clothing, a whole lot. I'd buy it all there because you could actually put it on. You could try it on, put it on, and take it from there. So, but they're in Armidale now, and I've got both my pair of boots from them guys, and they're really good with that as well. But I still found a pair of lower boots and tried them on, so I knew that a 44 was a 44 type thing.
That's generally not something I'm going to buy online.
That's it.
Because they do fit different.
That's right. And I when I bought the first pair, I said to them, I said, "Is there any sizing difference between the two?" And they said, "No, they're pretty standardised. They're 44s or they're 44s." And it was the second pair of boots I bought. Fit as well as the first.
Yeah, well, you'd expect that from lower,
but it's a track. Yeah, well, but I mean that's the thing. You would expect it, but you don't want to invest $600, get them and go shit.
No,
turn this over and send it back and all that stuff because it's just a hassle.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the process I'm going through. I'm going to do the same thing with boots shortly. The old Z8 lower Z8s have worn out after 4 or 5 years of use. I've been told to go and replace the soles because you can just send them back and resole them, but the stitching's come up and there's little holes through where the stitching is, and like they've really had it tough. So time to upgrade those, and got my eye on a pair of Rangers. Hopefully they'll do the job. I'm sure they'll do the job. I just was working through the Rangers, the High Country and the Tibets, 3 that look very, very similar, but the Rangers, they just feel like they're not quite as stiff in the sole, and they give you a bit more feedback underfoot, so you can feel before you're going to snap a twig in half, whereas the other ones are a bit stiffer for much, much bigger pack outs. But good boots, and we'll head down to probably into Valhalla and try on a few of the boots because they have a good stock holding there, and
they're very impressed with what they got there.
Yep.
So guess once my Zamberlands are finished with, I'll probably replace them with a leather lower. So at the moment I'm running the synthetic / suede, but I'll go to a patent leather once those Zamberlands give out because they're the heavy boots I've got. Though I wore Z6s last year at Nundle and took the Zamberlands as backup in case something happened, and I didn't need them.
They're such a good boot.
So they might. Yeah, the Zamberlands are great boots as well. They're fantastic, but they might last forever. I actually got a pair in England. I had a old pair, and I left them over there rather than carrying them on the plane there and back and forth. I left them over there. They're fantastic boots. other gear that I don't know, but, we've been playing with is some of the stuff from Infurate, which has been really nice. I myself are playing with that. What is it? The TH52 version 2, which is the
very
thermal
nice
optic scope. Yeah, it is. It's a piece of work, that's for sure. It's a real thing. It's got lots and lots of functionality and lots of brains behind it. So I'm really just starting to learn about that. There's and it's interesting having a scope where you're actually dialing in various things in the scope itself. So it's got the major control panel, very much like Swarovski brought out a scope, the Z8, and it's got the controller in the rear eyepiece.
Yeah.
They have that, but that's only on-off palette color. So there's on-off palette color, and there's another thing there. I can't think what it is right now. Most of the controls is the top turret's actually a button, and you push the top turret, and that gives you your menu button that runs through. Right. And I mean, just been playing around with that, and understanding that menu, and working on that, and getting that set up at different ranges for thermal shooting at night.
Or in the day.
I know you can use it through the day, but I think I think you can use it in the day, but I think if you're going to go to that much effort, you really want to get the opportunity to use that at night, where it really would come into its own.
Yeah, and I think the concept of day-night,
it's a big piece of equipment too.
Yeah, it's not small, but I think the concept of day-night is, you still got people that they don't have a lot of rifles potentially, so you still want to be able to use it during the day, as a scope, which you can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% about using that scope as a full-time scope. It seems to be, I'm sure it's capable of it, but the fact that you've got to charge it and things like that, I think it's really going to come in on its into its own. When the sun goes down, then you're really going to see the advantage of all that brains and all that high quality equipment in play. I'm sure it's great during the day, but I think at night time, that's when you go, this is what this is really for.
Yeah. You think you'll have an issue with the heat from rocks and things like that during the day?
Well, you do, but I mean, with all of those thermals, you do until you see the animal, and then all of a sudden you realise you're looking at an animal.
Yeah, and I've found playing with them on the farm.
I don't know.
We've got a lot of rock on the farm, and you can flick through the colour palettes, and you can alleviate a lot of that. If you go into that black hot colour tone, it's pretty easy to identify the rocks. I just found it amazing looking out over the paddocks at night time and seeing bunnies and bandicoots and all sorts of things running across the paddocks that just outside the house. I'd put the thermal out across the paddock, and you'd see 10, 15 critters running across, just having a good old field day under the cover of darkness, which was pretty good. But I'm going to be really interested in your opinion, Mark, after you've set it up, whether you think you could use it in the daylight or not. I think once you've set it up and you've played with it a bit, it'll be interesting to see whether you think you'd get it into a state forest. I personally don't think it's the right tool for state forest, because it's probably too big for it.
No, I don't either.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's a really bit of fit for purpose gear, and you could use it. You could do anything with it.
Sure.
But I think if you really want to get the real oomph out of it, it's sitting quietly at night, observing when nothing else can see you, and you can see very, very clearly what's in front of you, and you can dial in you have those preset ranges, and you just that's at 50 meters, dial it in. Well, no, you don't dial it. You're basically pushing buttons, and it's grabbing another profile and just going and I think that's where that it really comes into its own. I know there's a guy, as I said, I've spoken before. He's out of Western Australia, and you see some of his thermal stuff when he's hunting at night, and he's looking at deer, and they just do not know he's there.
Amazing.
They just do. There's no awareness whatsoever, and when he hits them, you see that he gets true bang flop. They just don't know what's going on. You'll see them react like a heart lung shot, and you'll actually see them react as they'll react, but because they're not in any way agitated or they're just feeding. They don't know what's going on, and all of a sudden they get hit. And I think that's, if you're into that kind of hunting, especially if if you're hunting dogs and things like foxes and raps and stuff like that, that'd be fantastic. Deer might be harder because you still got to find them, and you still got to cover off on ground. But being a place where there's a good couple of good paddocks, and you're getting small game through there, and the occasional dog and things like that sitting there on a nice, bit elevated position, good set of sticks in front of you, comfortable, and having that thing just and being able to just look over that ground. I'm really looking forward to taking up in the valley because there's a couple of dogs up there. And I saw one in the thermal monocular, but it was just too hard to see it and shoot. And I'm really keen to try it out as a scope rifle.
Yeah,
you still use the monocular for glassing?
Monocular. The way I use the monocular is I use it before I go out. So what I'll do is because I'm usually starting before dawn, I'm starting at dark, I'll scan in front of me in case I do something stupid like a bump a deer. I kind of go, okay, I'll see what's around, and I use it to kind of like a radar, if you will, what's in front of me, and because I know where I want to be and where I want to get in a position, and it helps me get there without making a mistake of bumping deer or something else. I don't, and then at night, if I'm in position or it's pre-dawn, I use it as a scanning tool then. But it's hard with the monocular to scan and to shoot as well because they're not linked. And if it's still too dark, you can't pick them up in the scope. So it's a different. I think it's a different application altogether with it, with that kind of purpose-built thing mounted on your rifle. You're going to use that to locate and hammer.
Oh, so you would be using the scope itself for glassing at night. So if you're sitting over a water hole.
I don't know how they would go to have two different ones going. I think it'd probably be better to have the scope set up in such a way as that you can use it to, do panning vision with the scope.
Yeah, you stick it on a tripod, and
of course, unless you got something really cool like the binocular ones, that might I see there's binocular style thermals that might be even better again. But I don't know, if I was going out, I don't think I'd bother taking a monocular and the scope.
So when you go out if you're using that to find dogs, or you're doing livestock protection or culling or whatever, you would a lot of these guys have proper tripod setups. Clamp the rifle into it so that it's nice and stable. Then you Bluetooth that thing to your iPad, and you can move the thing around and you watch your iPad. You don't have to have your eye on it the whole time. You've got a reasonable screen sitting in front of you that captures. So when you can see what you need to see, you can lock the clamp, you can zoom in on it, you can do what you want to do. There's a lot you can do with that, right down to the smaller ones. They all do that. They all link to an iPad or another device via Bluetooth. So there's an app that you can get for them that gives you visibility, which is really cool. Probably haven't a chance to have a look at that yet, Mark.
So the one you just, for those listening, Ian just held up a smaller monocular. For me, I use that heading towards light. I tend to use that in the hours before light as a way of finding out what's in front of me until I get to a position where, it's light enough for me to see. I reckon with this scope rifle, what I'll do is I'll do the opposite. I'll go out in light, get comfortable, get set up somewhere, and wait for the light to drop and use that thing to hunt. So I'll kind of use them in reverse, if you will.
Yeah. State Forest, a year ago, we had similar devices. So the one that I was talking about before is the AFO AP13. It's their entry level monocular, and we had the I don't know if this is a V2 or not. Regardless, anyway, we had this. We had the version before this last year at Hunt Camp, and then I've also got the Finder. So the AP13 is about $1,000 device, $900 device, and the Finder, which is that one. If you're looking upside down, we'll do it the other way. How about that? That one is about a $4,000 monocular. So obviously one's going to be quite a bit better than the other, but in a state forest where you're looking at reasonably close quarters, the cheaper one does a very good job. And to Mark's point, where he's talking about using the monocular to see what's in front of him before he trips over it, in state forest, you're always going to get a bit of flack from people that say, "Oh, you shouldn't be using thermals in state forest. It's not hunting. It's not this. It's not that." Look, I get that, but I try things out. I like to try things out just to see what place they have, and I found that using these devices, I was able to clear the country in front of me. It wasn't about finding the deer; it was about finding where they weren't, to a point, right? So I was able to look over this gully and say, "Well, there's actually no deer there. I'm leaving this gully." And the entire time that I was testing these devices out while I was in the bush, I didn't see one deer in the thermal. I managed to take deer. The dog found the deer. We managed to find them that way. But I was able to cover more country because I knew that there weren't deer in front of me and I could just move on. So that worked really well. But yeah, if you're looking for entry-level thermal, these slightly sub-$1,000 devices, they've come a long way even in 12 months.
Which is amazing,
isn't it?
Yeah. Considering
Dave had I think he had a Hick Micro version. Granted, it's almost looks the same. All the vendors seem to have something that looks like a submarine shape. There it goes. And Dave's Hick Micro, I think it cost him $2.5 or something like that, he said. And he compared the two of these together, and this was quite a bit sharper, but it is also 3-4 generations newer. So yeah, the technology's improved and the prices come down, and if you want to muck around with it, I wouldn't be scared about that. Yeah.
One, so it's a thermal monocular, but it had interchangeable front lenses, which was even cooler again, and its control panel was completely different to any of the ones I've seen so far. So most of those thermal monoculars have like a 5-button top control panel. It is a very different system, and it had this really interesting scrolling wheel, which was fantastic. But what was really amazing was you could actually interchange the front lens. So the way the Zeiss were advertising it, there was like a forest lens and a field lens. So one was a 35mm, one was a 50mm, and they bayoneted off like you were changing a camera lens on an SLR or something like that. So you kind of think that's where it's going to go. They're just going to get better and better quality, more features, and probably as prices will continue to come down in those things too.
Well, you look at the tech changes. Look at the Swaros that came out that we're looking at online in the last couple of weeks. That can identify bird species and things like that. They're just the new technology is coming all the time. It's quite incredible. For me, it's there's price, but there's practicality and there's size. Taking a massive heavy thermal out is not really helpful. In a backpacking scenario, if you're out hunting in the bush, something small that can do the job. This may not pick up the same level of detail as some of the others. I agree with that. It's not to the same standard, but you're going to see the general outline of it, and you're going to know what it is. So it's going to do the job you need. The other thing, what you were talking about before, Jono, is would you use a monocular to find stuff and then, the scope to shoot? At nighttime, we found it quite interesting how blinding they can be. So blinding both eyes might be an interesting thing, but also finding the same thing twice as hard. In the daytime, using a thermal, I could see animals. I could absolutely see animals right in front of me, but not with the naked eye or not with my binoculars because I pick them up without the thermal. because they can see through a certain level of scrub. You can see them in behind it. It's amazing how often you can't find what the thermal picks up.
I saw it. I thought, oh, there's an animal there. I didn't know what it was. I thought at first it was a fox, but then I saw the big curly tail. I went, oh, okay, it's a wild dog. The tail coming up, and you wouldn't have picked that up with binos or anything.
Mm.
Even if there was still light, you wouldn't have picked it up. It was in the tree. So when I was scanning, I just saw the heat signature and it disappear, and then the heat signature come back as it lined up. You wouldn't have picked that up, but it was there. So that's what they do. They allow you to see those things that you might otherwise miss. They don't stand out like here's a deer against a tree, but you'll get this difference in heat signature. I remember the first time I used one, we were down at that property. We used to hunt down at Murrundi, and we went out at night, and you camped on what was actually a nice little hut. You stayed on one side of the property, sloped down to the creek, and then it went up to another gully. And right in front of that creek was this perfect flat. It was like a big bowl. And I remember lifting the thing up, and it was just alive with animals that you wouldn't have seen. There's pigs, there's roos, there's cattle, there's deer. They're all there milling around on this open paddock. I went, wow, I just couldn't believe it. So you certainly do see things.
Mm. Well, it'll be good to try these things out again this year. We'll see what comes with it. Well, let's talking about Hunt Camp again as well. So that's been launched. So we put that out a week ago, and we've got amazing interest in it this year, like the last couple of years, but it's stepped up another gear. But if you're interested in coming along to that event, we're hosting it back in Nundle. The location in Nundle has not been disclosed at this point. We're still working on that, but we'll be there from April 14th through to about the 21st. It's in the middle of the fallow deer rut, and we'll have a camp for those that want to come along. Now, Nundle's got about 25 hunting slots available. We've got more interest than we do slots, so you'll have to be keen to get in. But there's quite a few people that are coming this year by the looks of it that aren't hunters, or they're tagging along with a hunter. So if you're interested in coming, but you're not a hunter and you just want to be part of the camp, you're welcome to come along as well. So come and do that. Just jump onto the Facebook page, go to our events section, and register as going. We'll link you to a chat group so that you can get a bit more information, and then we'll do our best to get as many people along as possible. It's going to be a fun event. Looking forward to it.
That's right. We're going to find somewhere in Nundle itself, because with the changes to the camping regulations, we'll try and get the biggest single campsite we can get.
Yep, found a great spot.
Won't be able to use. Well, there's a couple of good spots, but won't be able to use Ponderosa because that technically only holds 5 people or something like that.
Yeah,
Hanging Rock.
That's it. So, find somewhere in Nundle.
Planning to.
Mark's
depends how the
planning
rule
to.
goes, but planning to depends how the rule goes.
I have a very good feeling that I will be there, even if it's for a short period of time. Even if I have to come down, even if I'm not hunting, I'll come down.
Yeah, very good. And we've got some plans.
I don't know. There's a few things working out yet.
Yeah, there's a few things working out yet. We've got a few guests that we might have come along. Some people of interest that might show up and show and tell a few things. Yep, we've got a few secrets up our sleeve yet that will hopefully everyone will enjoy. So yeah, keep tuned into that.
My intention is to be there for at least a period of the camp, maybe come towards the end when a few people are thinned out. We'll see how we go, but that's my intention, to get there at least for a couple of days. So I'm just looking at the calendar now. There we go.
14th. That weekend.
Yeah. I'm glad it's not the following weekend, because my young son now is school vice captain, which means I have to go to dawn service Anzac Day. So
you'd have done that every year anyway, Mark.
I'm glad. No, mate. I've slept in, mate. I've slept in, and I have. readily admit that I've slept in on dawn service. So, but I won't be doing it this year. So, because I know his mum won't get up to take him to dawn service, so I'll have to take him.
Every year I plan to, and the same. End up sleeping in.
So so with Hunt Camp, of course, if you're listening and you're not quite sure of it, it's an R license. It's a New South Wales State Forest. So if you want to hunt, you've got to register through the R license. You've got to have an R license system and book a place through the R license booking system. That's why we're limited numbers. Nundle State Forest only carries 25 hunters at one time. But being that it's also public land and a state forest, if you want to just come along, you can come along and camp there. So, and last year there was plenty of people who did that, and it looks like we'll have even more there. So it's just a wonderful gathering of people who are going to be in the same place at the same time. So by all means, if you can get in or you're keen to hunt and you've got the appropriate licensing, go for it. I have a feeling that's going to be a bit of a drag race this year to get into those. It's going to be a few disappointed punters, but even if that's not the case, come along and join us in camp and tell us what you think. Introduce yourself, and let's keep building that network of people.
Yeah, and get in contact if you do decide you want to come. Make sure you make yourself known by hitting the like button on the event, so that we can make sure that we connect you in and support you through the process of getting there. Yes, there are only 25 spots, but some people come for the first half, some come for the second half, some come for 2 or 3 days. There's plenty of opportunity for a lot of people to get involved. So just do it. It's a fantastic event. We have a great time.
Are there going to be any prizes this year, Ian?
There are. We've already got some lined up, but I'm not going to let them out of the bag yet because they could get better, bigger, grander. We won't be giving away the same old pair of dirty socks. It'll be some cool stuff there. So there'll be some get a trial. That's right. Last year's boots, those sorts of things. No, there'll be some good stuff to have a look at. There'll definitely be some prizes, some participation awards and things like that. And given it's year 3, usually we create a trip shirt. So there'll be a trip shirt that's created, a bit of a memento that you can take home and wear proudly. And we'll be doing that again. But we're getting to year number 3, so there might be some, depending on who shows up, there'll be 3 or 4 people that might have been to the last 2. This will be their 3rd one, so there might be an originals shirt that shows up as well.
Oh, okay.
The
OG shirt.
or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's all good fun. Yeah, come along. It's going to be great. Really looking forward to it.
It is. It's brilliant fun. Brilliant fun.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, it won't clash with my red. My red hunting will be in. I'm going to be going up in the last week of March for at least a couple of days.
Oh, so before we hang up the call, before we finish it off, tell me about the red deer roar in the Mary Valley, Kilcoy sort of area. When have you found the roar, the middle of the roar in the last few years? I know it's been different each few years, but is there a week that you sort of aim for?
I like the first week of April.
There you go.
Oh, it's late.
On my block, I like the last week of March. Seems to be a good time. Last year, so the year before was the best roar I'd ever been involved in. Last year's was shaping up to be fantastic, and it turned out to be a washout in more ways than one. So I really don't know what this one's going to be like. If this year the last week in March doesn't play out, I might move to a later week in the following years. But I have generally liked the last week of March myself.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have been offered.
It's got a lot to do with the fact that, I was talking to a guy, one of our listeners actually, a guy by the name of Blaine from Urella, and he's heading up in the first week of April, And we were just talking about he hunts in New South Wales and hunts some good fellow, but he's never hunted red. And we were talking about calibers and things like that. And he's going up, I said, in the first week of April. And I said, the trouble with the Brisbane Valley is it's such an epicenter for deer hunting at that time of year. It's almost impossible to tell what's going to happen because there's so much, all of a sudden, there's so much pressure. You know, you sit on any hill up there and you'll just hear bang, 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 bang. You think, and that pressure, it must create, it must be, you know, it must have some effect on the animal behaviour, because there's just so many people up there all of a sudden looking for deer. And I said to him, I said, you know, a lot of times people go, oh, I'll pass that one, I'll get him next year. That's not such a good thing to do up there at times, because by next year that one's probably been in the ground 6 months. So
shot through the fence from the other side of the road.
That. Yeah, well, I said I did that in Brisbane. What's his name? Mary Valley one year. Oh, I'll leave him. I'll leave that 5.5. He's fantastic looking animal. He'll come back from next year. 2 weeks later, he's dead on the road. Got shot from the street. So shot from the track. So
yeah, well, I've been lucky enough to be offered a block up Kilcoy way this year, and I'm trying to figure out what dates would be best to go. So I think I've got my pick of dates, but I wanted to separate it from hunt camp for family reasons, but you're telling me late March rather than mid-March. I wanted you to tell me mid-March. Tell me mid-March.
People will start talking, saying that, you know, they'll start hearing roar in early March sometimes. I wonder if they're hearing cows bellow, but anyway, but that's a different thing. But doesn't mean they're not there. Doesn't mean you won't do well. I just like that particular time, and I like to go up during the week. I don't go up anywhere near the weekend. So I want to go up during. Actually, I like to be coming back on Friday.
So I do the same. Go up on Sunday.
Whatever that Friday is, I want to come back on that Friday. So I don't even know what day it is in March. So okay. So I'll be coming back on the 29th. I like to get out of the Brisbane Valley before the weekend, because it does get a bit crazy up there.
Did you know I might potentially hunt that week too, Mark? Because I like to hunt the week before the Easter weekend. Easter's quite early. This weekend is the 29th.
Do you reckon they're getting their eggs ready or something like that?
I just prefer it because I'll be away for a week and then come back and spend the week with the family. So.
That's it. Yeah, so
last week in March. Could be 1 week in March, fellas.
They're in the last week of March. I don't know if I'll be up there for the whole week, but I will try and get up there for at least a few days. Camp in his front yard on a nice cut grass. Going to Kilcoy tonight. Nice pizza from Kilcoy. Going for pizza. Get up across the track in the morning, walk across, go through the fence, head up in the scrub, see if I can hear them roaring. I could hear them roaring last year, but there was a long, long way off. So,
very good. Well, we'll see how that all plays out. It's not far to go.
Oh, it's coming up quickly.
Yeah, it is.
Real fast.
It's becoming a bit too quick, actually.
All right, we'll call it a wrap.
I want to take my 30-06 with me this year, and I want to shoot that new Hornady ammo out of it, so I need to get to the range and sight that in. Need to make
that shoots like a...
I don't want to find that out in the last week of March. I don't want to find out I can't group it in the last week of March.
Just make sure you do the scope bring up probably. You're right.
You got a torque wrench, don't you? Oh.
A very nice setup for putting on scopes properly. And I know how to use all of it.
That's an inside joke for another time. All right, we're done. We're finished. We're done. We're out.
We're done.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks, fellas.
Awesome. Thanks, gents.
Good night.
Hello, guys.
Yeah.